Hello, and welcome again to Theology Thursday. Why does God pick the people that He picks to do something? Well, sometimes God picks the people He picks because it shows that they can't do it. And so God gets the power. God gets the approval. Sometimes He does it to show His grace and majesty. I mean, think about it. Jesus picked 12 apostles, and for the most part, none of them would be the people we would pick to build the church on. Sometimes he does that. He does things upside down. He picks women who were considered second-class citizens in Bible times. We don't, but in Bible times, many consider them maybe not as important as men. But it's women that Jesus first appears to after the resurrection, which is not the way it would have been done anywhere else. And so God oftentimes picks people to show off His power and His glory. But sometimes God picks people because they're just the right person for the task. So, for example, God is going to pick Mary. Why does He pick Mary and Joseph? Because He wants a son raised in a home where Scripture's loved. It's a Jewish home of the line of David. Like Mary and Joseph were the right people. Moses was certainly the right person for the job. He had spent 40 years in Pharaoh's court. He knew how Egypt operated. He knew how to get into Pharaoh's presence. He understood all. He knew the language, and, all of that. Moses was the right guy for the job. To launch the missionary movement, you need somebody who was bold and courageous and understood Scriptures well and had a plan, could go into a town and go in the synagogue and could discuss with people not just the law from Scripture, but all the contemporary stuff they were doing, and understood all of that. And so the Apostle Paul was the right guy for that. I mean, he was the right guy for that. So sometimes that's how God does. Esther was the perfect person to deliver her people in the book. I mean, no one could have done it better than her. She was ideal in terms of who she was and where she was stationed and all of that. So here's why I say that, because I want to show something that's really interesting in Judges that you may not have ever thought about. And it kind of brings the two of these concepts together. So in Judges chapter 7, we'll read an account of the Bible I really like, and that's Gideon and the Midianites. So it says, then Jerubbaal, who is Gideon, his name means wrestled with Baal because he had already destroyed Baal's altar. So then Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, and all the people who were with him rose early and encamped beside the spring of Harod. And the camp of Midian was north of them, by the hill of Moreh in the valley. And the Lord said to Gideon, the people with you are too many for me to give the Midianites in their hand, lest Israel boast over me, saying, my own hand has saved me. So they'll think, well, we had enough people, we outnumbered them, we won the battle. And God says, no, I'm going to get the credit. Okay. So he says, say in the ears of the people, whoever is fearful and trembling, let him return home and hurry away from Mount Gilead. And 22,000 of the people returned, and 10,000 remained. So God's going to do the victory, not through the cowards, but for the people that are courageous and bold and are willing to go to battle. It's 10,000. He shaved down the number. So I want fewer people to show I'm the one doing it. But at the same time, he says, these are the right people to do it. If we're going to have a smaller number, we need some bold, courageous people. And then in verse 4, the Lord said to Gideon, the people are still too many. I'm sure Gideon's like, what? And he says, there's still too many. So he said, I want you to take them down to the water, and I will test them for you there. And I'm going to read the whole thing and then come back and explain what's going on. And anyone of whom I say to you, this one will go with you, will go with you. And anyone saying this one will not go with you, will not go. So he brought the people down to the water, and the Lord said to Gideon, everyone who laps in the water with his tongue as a dog laps, he'll set by himself. Likewise, everyone who kneels down to drink. And the number of those who lapped, putting their hands to their mouth, was 300 men, but all the rest of the people knelt down to drink water. And the Lord said to Gideon, with the 300 men who lapped, I will save you and give the Midianites into your hand, and let the others go every man to his own home. So people took provisions in their hands and their trumpets, and they sent all the rest of Israel, every man to his tent, but retained the 300 men. And the camp of Midian was below him in the valley. Now that's really important. So I've been there, and you're up on a hilltop, and water doesn't flow uphill, it flows downhill. So the spring is at the bottom of the hill. Most of the rock in Israel is porous, and so the water works through the rock, and it comes out somewhere, and it comes out here at this spring called the Springs of Harod. Now, it's been changed today. Now it's diverted into these big concrete wading pools and all. It's a really cool place to go. But in those times, what do you have around a spring? You get a lot of growth, a lot of bushes, a lot of trees, because there's water. And this is a good place for an ambush. Now imagine this. Gideon's up on top with his people. Midianites are at the bottom. The spring is at the bottom. So this is a good place for them to encounter the Midianites and be ambushed. So Gideon takes all these people down to the water, and they drink one of two ways. They either put their head down in the water, which was foolish, or they probably even kept like a sword in their hand. They picked their water and they lapped like this so they could keep looking around. They were watchful. They were careful. And I've got a picture of it right here. So this is our executive pastor, Aaron Krause. And Aaron is one of the 9,700 who will be sent home for his foolishness. He has his face down in the water, not looking around. His wife, Allison, on the other hand, the wise one in the family, is scooping the water with her hand so that she can keep her head up and can see what's going on. And when we were in Israel with them a couple of years ago, I asked them to do this picture to demonstrate Judges chapter 7, because this is exactly where it happened. This is this water comes from the springs of the road. And as I said, they've turned into a big park area now and placing these wading pools and stuff. So here's what we have. God's going to show it's by his power, so he's going to do it by only 300. So that's like this. Sometimes God picks not the way we would to show off his power and his might. So he's going to do about 300. But these are the right 300. They made the first cut because they're courageous and bold. They're not afraid. And then they make the second cut because they're wise. They're watching for an enemy in this place. And once these weeded them out, he takes the 300 back up the top of the hill. That's why it says that the camp of the Midianites was below him in the valley once he had his 300. So these are the right 300. But it's down to 300 to show God's power. So this is one of the rare places in Scripture we see both of these kind of sides to why God picks who he picks. One to show his power and his might. It's not about us. But the other is they're the right person for the task. And so we see those come together. So it's really cool kind of the way it works. And if you read the rest of Judges 7, you'll read about how these 300 got the victory and all. And that's not really the point of the day. I just wanted to kind of show what it meant with the, some put their face down, others lapped from their hand. And, like a dog lapping out of a bowl, their head up, looking around, and how those are the right men. And God also sent home everybody else because he wanted to make sure it was down to just not show he got the power. So God gets the glory because it's only 300, but these are the right 300 because they're the ones that were fearless and wise. So that is kind of cool. And I just thought I'd share that with you today. So God bless you, and I hope you are a person that God chooses to use to show off his power, but also because you're the right person for wherever it is that God's put you, whatever it is God's called you to do. So God bless you.